Yeah, hi Rahul. It's great to be back on Converse, which is far and away, in my opinion, the best program on news television right now, even better than India Up Front, if you don't mind my saying so. And it's great to be amongst friends, even though they might disagree with me or I might disagree with them. The real issue is what you talked about, and let me go straight into the nub of the whole issue. But before I do that, I just heard my good friend Pavanji saying that he's never leapt onto the aisle or rushed to the well. Well, it is entirely appropriate that he's no longer the member of parliament, because people would ask, what the hell are you doing there? If you never rushed to the well, you don't belong there. But I mean, that's how far we have descended. But the fact of the matter is, if I can get back to the issue, and the issue, Rahul, you talked about democracy. You talked about a historic occasion that we're going to have next week. Well, let me say this, democracy, more often than what we'd like to admit, is not so much the defeat of the elected as it is the defeat of the electorate. And let me say, one of the most iconic speeches that were given in the older parliament, if I can say so, was, of course, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's tryst with destiny. I don't know who's going to inaugurate this and the kind of speech that would be given for the new parliament. But if I can say this tongue in cheek, what we've done is not tryst with destiny over the last 74, 75 years. We've messed with our destiny. And it is my thesis that more important, much more important than where you say something is what you say something. What you say is more important than where you say it. So I put to you that increasingly on the great issues, the major issues that would catapult this country of 1.4 billion people to middle income economy, which is what we all should really worry about, that our GDP per capita right now is $2,500 or $2,000. It should really be $15,000 to $20,000. This is all that matters to every one of us, because we've seen the fruits of liberalization and we've seen what we can achieve, but we are still shackled. So the tragedy is we seem to be more worried about where we are going to say or do things in national interest rather than doing things in national interest. And I think it would be what should have taken us 5 or 6 years to catapult ourselves or leapfrog, as the term goes to middle income economy, will now take us decades. Let me give you 3 or 4 examples where the opposition is actually working in cahoots with the ruling governing party and vice versa on the things that they should be working together for the development, for national interest. Let's look at the farm laws. Now, clearly those 3 laws would have catapulted us to a middle income economy within, I dare say less than 10 years, because I've done all the data. I've actually crunched all the data. Instead, what has happened is that those farm laws that were promised in the manifestos of the opposition parties, the moment Modi brought them, they all started calling them black laws. They did a spectacular U-turn. 44% of our ready labor force of 515 million people, Rahul, is involved in agriculture. 82% of all Indian households are involved in agriculture or they benefit from it. In the West, rather than 44%, it is 2 to 3%. These farm laws would have really benefited us in more ways than one. And what has happened without any logical reasoning? The government has taken back those farm laws to placate the opposition or whatever factions they may be. We have gone against national interest. Let me give you another example. And there, by the way, the opposition sides with the Modi government in taking back that farm laws. So it doesn't matter where, from which rostrum they would have shouted, whatever they did. The fact is that in cahoots, they worked against national interest, and we're going to pay for it as Indian taxpayers. Number 2, 1,833 public sector units we have. 400 of them are non-functional. Every year, the allocated budget which Ms. Sitaraman is going to table in the parliament, 21% of that goes up in propping up these sick PSUs. But rather than the opposition saying, agreeing with 2013 Modi avatar that the government has no business to be in business, and he himself has taken a U-turn, the opposition doesn't want any privatization except for Air India. There has been not a single privatization. There has been disinvestment in one PFU, but it has been invested by another PSU. So this kind of thing is being supported against national interest by the opposition. I can go on and on. I can talk about the public sector banks that have had a capital infusion of 6 lakh crores. I can talk about the debt to GSDP. Average state debt to GSDP is 35% more than anything else in the last 15 years. And yet we have farm waivers, loan waivers. We have freebies. So I put to you, my thesis is that wherever they might be collecting the opposition or the ruling party or our MPs, without the good Mr. Pavan Varma, they are now actively working against national interest on the issues that really matter to us. And that is the great tragedy, Rahul.